Hi everyone, and thanks for joining today's What's New with AdX Policy training. I'm your trainer Asha Balendran. I also have two policy experts on the call with me today. That's Andrea and Kimberly, and they're on hand to just help out with any questions you may have towards the end of the session. So here's what we have on the agenda today. We'll be starting today going through the new policies for the month. We'll be then going through very briefly what our ad review process looks like, and then we'll also be providing a general policy refresher for any new buyers. We'll then give you a quick update on our buyer health checks we've been carrying out recently, and to finish, we'll go through some handy tools and tips for creative approval and answer any questions you submit via the Q&A panel. So if you're new to Hangouts on Air, you can find the Q&A panel towards the left-hand navigation of your Hangouts on Air screen. You can press the button and submit questions through there. We'll have a live Q&A session at the end, so I'll be sure to answer your questions then. So let's start with going over the new policies for the month. The reason why we have these policies is so that we can have a clean and healthy ecosystem for both our buyers and publishers, and we take this very seriously here at Google. So let's go on to go through the new policies for May. So we have a couple of policies that we're going to go over today, and these are the flash deprecation reminder, payday loans, ad refresh, mute this ad, and social engineering. So let's start with flash deprecation. So over the last year, we've rolled out tools to encourage advertisers to build in HTML5, so you're able to reach the widest possible audience across screens. To enhance the browsing experience for more people across more sites, DoubleClick Digital Marketing, DoubleClick Ad Exchange, and the GDN, that's Google Display Network, are going to be going 100% HTML5. So if you remember, in September last year, we rolled out Chrome plugin Power Saver to reduce power consumption and increase page load speeds. Then in June, we have another milestone coming up, and this is concerning DCM, DBM, and AdWords. And basically, applicable to us, starting January the 2nd of next year, 2017, Flash ads will no longer be able to run through DCM, DBM, Ad Exchange, and the Google Display Network. So it's really important to note these dates down and update your ads to HTML5 before these dates if it concerns you, specifically the January 2017 date. So advertisers who currently use display ads built in Flash in their campaigns have several easy ways to navigate the transition during your creatives continues to reach people successfully. So just to reiterate, starting on January the 2nd, AdX will no longer allow Flash creatives or creators with Flash pixels to serve by AdX. And here at Google, we've developed a number of solutions for HTML5. So this will be accessible after the presentation, but there's tools to convert Flash assets in DCM and DBM. Using Google Web Designer, you can develop and design HTML from scratch or using the templates provided. And we also have a number of on-demand training, certifications, and resources to help you with this transition. So we'll be sending that out after the training. Okay, so moving on to payday loans ad policy. So what's changing here? Our policy is changing across AdWords, Ad Exchange, and DBM. So starting July 13th, we will be disapproving creatives that point to a landing page with payday loans. So you may ask, what are payday loans? So for this policy, we're defining payday loans as personal loans, as lending money from one individual organization or entity to an individual consumer on a non-recurring basis, and not for the purpose of financing purchase of fixed assets or education. Now, if you don't promote personal loans, then this change should not impact you. However, if you are, here's what you can do. So to continue advertising on personal loans, you have to ensure that you're meeting the following, your landing page meets the following standards. So it contains all disclosures and doesn't promote the following types. So all personal loans with repayment in full within the 60 days will be prohibited, and that's globally, including the US. And this is US only. All personal loans with an APR over 36% will be prohibited. And you can read more about this change once it goes live, so after July the 13th on the Help Center link there. Okay, moving on to the ad refresh policy. So AdX policies have been updated now to allow publishers to refresh their ad inventory without necessarily refreshing all the content on the page. So how does this actually work? Publishers will have the option to refresh content or ads in the following manner. So it's one of three ways. User action based. So this is where publishers can refresh ads based on user guided navigations, for example, scrolling. The second way is event based. So publishers can refresh content and corresponding ads based on events changing, such as sports score updates or weather updates. And then lastly, in the middle, time-based, so where publishers can refresh ads at a predetermined time interval. So when is this being enforced? It's actually available now to all AdX publishers. Okay, so moving on to our fourth update. This is called Mute This Ad. So what is Mute This Ad? This feature basically provides users with the ability to control the ads they see and signal which ads aren't interesting to them. So how do you as a buyer use this? You can now include the ad choice's destination URL field in your bid response. And when your bid response includes this URL, AdX will include the ad choice's icon in the creative. So you can see the image there. It will look something like that in the top right. And then once users click on this, it will bring up the ads preference manager where they can go in and change their preferences in the future. So what kind of ads can be muted? Users can only mute personalized image ads that run on the Google Display Network. So Google uses the double-click cookie to keep track of campaigns users have previously muted. Therefore, you don't have the option to mute a personalized Google ad in cases where your browser doesn't support third-party cookies, your browser is configured to block third-party cookies, you clear your cookies often, or you've opted out of interest-based advertising. So those are cases where Mute This Ad will not be applicable for users. And lastly, social engineering enforcement. So what is social engineering? We define it as pages that falsely purport to act on behalf of a third party with the intention of confusing viewers into performing an action. And this can be such as, download button or tricking users to click on certain buttons. So what's actually changing for this policy? So essentially it's safe browsing for Chrome, and it's an extension to, you may have heard of our Google unwanted software policy, where, if there's a download button or a click to download button, that basically violates this policy. And what's being enforced currently is that when Chrome loads these kinds of sites, the safe browsing interstitial, similar to the one shown here on the left, will be shown instead of the page's content. So that was our update. If you have any questions on these new policies, please do submit your questions via the Q&A box, and we'll go through them right after the following section. So policy refresh. So just to go over the ad review process, we have this in place to create a high quality, safe premium network of publisher content and also create a better user experience and protect the user. So the ad review process has an automatic review of the listed items on the left-hand side. So firstly, it starts with the buyer submitting an ad via the REST API or hosted bidding. Then step 2, the ad review, the ad goes through a series of automatic and manual ad reviews detecting violations like malware, broken URLs, incorrect destination URLs, SSL, and so on. And then finally, your ads are served. If they're approved, if they're disapproved, then you'll need to resubmit them after you've made the edit or fixes. So in the review process, AdX looks for things like malware, landing page quality, and for landing page quality, we want to make sure that there is transparency, ease of navigation, and original content. So if the website is determined to have a poor landing page quality, or if the site serves malware, then the ad will be automatically disapproved. If you are a UI buyer, so if you're submitting your ads through hosted bidding, the ad will be labeled approved or disapproved in your account. For disapproved ads, you'll get an email notification if you have that switched on in your account. And you can control these. You can control who receives these notifications under the My Account tab in your account. And similarly, if you're an RTB buyer, you'll be able to see the disapproved ads in RTB Breakout, Creative Explorer, or Creative REST API. And we'll walk through these tools towards the end of the presentation. But just to point out, racking up ad disapprovals will not cause your account to be suspended unless it's a severe violation. But of course, it will slow down your ad serving and your ability to run campaigns quickly and efficiently. So it's a good idea to keep on top of these policies. Okay, so just to give you a really quick refresher on the types of policies that I mentioned. So we have generally 4 types of policies, and they fall under these categories. So content and creative policies describe what type of products you can or can't advertise on AdX. General specification requirements for your ad creatives and website user experience requirements. Third-party ad serving and data policies note which technologies you are allowed to use, what you need to declare to us, and what type of data you're allowed to collect. Buyer participation policies go over what type of companies buy on the ad exchange, and behavioral policies describe which interest-based advertisements, including remarketing, you can or can't use for targeting and collection. So let's start with content and creatives. So I want to give you that there are many content and creative policies. Actually, there are many that fall into these 4 buckets, and you can always review all of these policies in the buyer program guidelines. That gives you a list of our full set of policies, but I just wanted to highlight the common ones we see. So there's the family safe content. And these, if you're familiar with AdWords, a lot of these policies are taken from there. The reason behind this is that when we merged the 2 systems, GDN and Ad Exchange, we inherited many of the AdWords policies for buying on publisher partner sites. And as a buyer on the Ad Exchange, you have access to AdX publisher sites as well as AdSense publisher sites. So, as we borrow most of these policies from AdX, you know that many of these policies are either classified as family safe, non-family safe, or adult. In addition to the above policies, Ad Exchange have the following on family safe status. So Google assigns a family status to all ads to make sure that the ads are shown to an appropriate audience, and products that are considered to have non-family safe status cannot currently be run on the Ad Exchange. So therefore, we disallow all non-family safe ads. For example, as you can see there, gambling ads are considered as non-family safe and therefore are not accepted on the Ad Exchange. And other examples include abortion, tobacco, weapons, and explosives. And it's also worth noting that some of the content policies mentioned here only apply to open auction and not for preferred deals and private auctions. So if you want to read more about these specifics, please again visit the program guidelines at the bottom of the screen. So the next area within content and creative policies are general ad specifications, and these are simply technical requirements that your ad must comply with. And again, just like our product policies, we inherit most of these from AdWords for image and video ads. And then just lastly, web user experience. So another big part is that website that the user lands on and what kind of experience that provides. So we want to make sure it's not suspicious, where it's going to take the user's information or install something on the computer, as we saw earlier with the social engineering policy. So we have two technical requirements. The first is related to the landing page and making sure it loads in a timely manner, and the second is landing page quality. And to determine the landing page quality, we generally use a threefold criteria to evaluate it. So one is relevance and original content, making sure your site doesn't copy text from other sites, the advertiser's site. Secondly, transparency and trustworthiness, so that if a user enters information like an email address or a phone number, it's clear what that information is going to be used for. And also ease of navigation, so ensuring that the advertiser provides a smooth and seamless path to navigation using navigational buttons. And these are the most frequent violated policies in this area of content and creative policies. So proper URL declaration. What do we mean by that? The ad must lead to the URL that's declared. And the reason why this is really important is because publishers rely on this information to block certain ads. So again, we want to create a healthy ecosystem with buyers and publishers. So this is a big one in terms of what the publisher needs to see. The second one here is what I mentioned before, family safe products. So gambling or pharma ads are not allowed on the ad exchange. These are considered as restricted content. And these are just not allowed to run on the ad exchange. So we're seeing quite a few violations there. So it's important to bear that one in mind. The next one is blank 3-pass creative. So what is this? This basically just means that all ads on ad exchange must render properly and you can't serve a blank creative. And the reason why is that running these creatives is just not acceptable and an unfriendly user experience. And then lastly, another violation that we see quite frequently violated is site not crawlable. And this is basically, this states that the declared click-through URL must lead to the landing page that can be crawled. And the reason why we have this policy in place is because ad exchanges uses Google crawler to read the page and ensure that it complies with ad exchange policies. So we have a case study here. So I have a creative that's disapproved for URL not crawlable. So if you look under your disapproved reason in, say, RTB breakout or in your My Account settings, how do you go about troubleshooting this? So basically, the ad is disapproved because the declared click-through URL leads to a landing page that could not be crawled. And this is the number 2 disapproval reason on the ad exchange. And again, as I mentioned, the landing page of all ads on ad exchange must be crawlable because we need to read, Google crawlers need to read this to ensure that all landing pages comply with all of our policies. So how do you troubleshoot this? To allow Google crawler on your page, you can add a user agent like the adsbot Google to your domain's robots.txt file. Or you can use Google Webmaster Tools to see how to make your pages accessible to Google. And if your ad is disapproved because your landing page is not crawlable, you can correct it by ensuring Google bots can crawl your site and then just resubmit your ad either using the Creative REST API or in hosted bidding. Okay, so the second bucket of policies is data and third-party ad serving, and these basically, with these types of policies, we're trying to keep publishers assured that ad exchange is a regulated environment, and it also gives buyers access to leverage different tools. So we also try to protect the end users because we have a large responsibility to users to make sure they're not exposed to technologies that compromise their safety. So with these policies, we work with the IAB, as all major network partners and technology providers do. as we all want ad servers to be compliant with the best industry standards. And we also like to be confident that if a user wishes to opt out of an ad server or technology, that they have the information and ability to opt out. So just to present the most frequent violations in this policy bucket, declaration of third and fourth party calls. So all third party and fourth party calls must be declared. And the reason why we have this policy in place is because publishers have specific requirements about the types of technology they will accept, and it's our responsibility to adhere to our publishers' wishes. The next one we see violated quite frequently is flash cookies and other locally shared objects. So these technologies are not allowed on the ad exchange, and basically users can't easily block these objects, and therefore it's against our policies to serve data with these. The next one is malware. This is quite a serious policy, and we'll go through the egregious violations at the end. But basically malware or viruses are not accepted on the ad exchange. And click macros, you must include a macro to track and report clicks accurately. Where supported, you must report these to Google. So the reason why we have this in place is because we use click information to protect buyers from fraudulent activity. So the next one is pretty straightforward. It's called the Buyer Participation Policy, and it basically describes who can or can't buy on the ad exchange. And it's basically just saying, also known as the no sub-syndication policy, and it states that any ad network, DSP or trading desk using a technology provider on their own technology must have a direct contract and seat with the ad exchange. So buyers can't buy on behalf of other buyers. Okay, so the last one is the behavioral policies bucket, and this includes interest-based advertising and remarketing. So this policy is basically quite straightforward. You must not use Google platform products to select or target interest-based advertisements or to collect or use audience data such as cookie lists, and it's based on the following. So you can't collect information on, and we've listed a subset here. Again, the full list can be found on the link on this page. But some of these include racial or ethnic information, religious or religious beliefs, political affiliation, health or medical information, and so on. And then the other thing to point out is that we've seen recently an issue where it's been ads are disapproved due to the user list names. So we've listed an example here. So these can be also something to note down if you see a disapproved ad based on this reason. And if you have any doubts on, what you can use or can't use, please discuss this with your solutions consultant or account managers, as continued violations can actually result in account suspension. Okay, so this brings us on to buyer policy health checks. In order to continue to provide access to a high quality inventory network on AdX, we need to ensure our publishers that our AdX buyers are complying with our policies. So to help to achieve this, we've been beginning to exercise our right to third-party policy audits. So we will let you know if you are chosen for one of these, but just to give you an update on what we've been doing so far. So essentially, these are triggered due to egregious violations. So these carry a more severe enforcement model. Technically they're not a separate set of policies, but it's basically just an aggregation of policies that live within the other four buckets, and they can have a more severe type of account enforcement, for example, pausing an account or suspension. So you can see some of the things listed here. So I mentioned before, LSOs or flash cookies, invalid fourth-party calls, failure to declare vendors, cloaking, which we're going to go through in a second, malware. Okay, so just to highlight something that we've been seeing recently, so cloaking is something that we've been seeing recently, and it actually contains a severe enforcement model. So what is cloaking? We define cloaking for buyers who found to have made third-party calls to malware or a virus, or the landing page has a malware or virus, and that third-party call also appears to knowingly attempt to avoid our detection, also known as cloaking. The buyer account can be paused. So what we're doing when we detect this, Google shall immediately stop the malware found and notify you as the buyer. And just to note that we can also pause the entire account during this notification period. So what can you actually do when you've been notified? So we will require you as the buyer to take account level action to prevent further spreading of the malware, and also describe those actions to us. And if this has not occurred in, say, 2 business days, then the account will be paused or suspended if it hasn't done so already. So yeah, this is an egregious violation, so please avoid doing this. And also it's worth mentioning, on our side, we check multiple domains, geos, user agents, so we also expect our buyers to do the same rigorous checking. Again, also, in terms of third parties and trusted partners, please check who you're working with. We also have a full list of Google certified vendors that you can use if you're unsure. So if you check the program platform policies, they'll be listed there. Okay, so with these health checks, we've found that buyers win 15% more impressions just 1 month after an AdX health check. So when we receive these notifications on these violations, we'll send you that information, and then once you implement the fixes, we've seen 15% increase in winning impressions. And just to detail this, so what we do is we tally up policy weighted violations, and then we assign a policy violation score to each buyer account, sometimes known as a badness score. And then we reach out to you, to the buyers that have a significantly higher than average policy violation score. And then we work with the buyer to resolve policy violations, and therefore you win more impressions the following month. And this is what we've been seeing as the top disapproval reasons from April the 1st to current day. So you can see that the top violations at the moment is bad destination URL, the site is not crawlable. So we presented that case study earlier on how to troubleshoot that one. Again, gambling ads, still quite high up on the list. It's just basically not allowed to be served on the ad exchange. Incorrect destination URL, declaration, problem with click macro, landing page quality disabled sites, media not fully functional, broken URL, undeclared restricted content, clarity and relevance, and malware on destination site. So these are the current top 10 disapprovals. So if you see these reasons, then please do implement the fix, otherwise it will slow down your campaigns. And just to note here that each disapproval reason can be different according to each buyer. So this is basically just on average, but we will work with you individually with your account team to troubleshoot your most frequently disapproved reasons. Okay, so now that we've talked about the AdX policies and the enforcement process, let's review the tools available that you can use to help your ad creatives get approved on AdX. And also, we also present some frequently asked questions from our buyers. So a question that we get quite often is, how do I check the status of my creatives and resubmit any that have been disapproved? So you can use the tool in your UI called Creative Explorer, and this is found in the bidding tab and on the left hand side, the Creative Explorer. This gives you your buyer creative IDs, your click-through URLs, and then it gives you the status. So whether it's been approved or disapproved, and also the reason for the disapproval. Then when you click into a specific buyer creative ID, you can view the creatives on a more detailed level, and it gives you much more information on, whether the status is approved, the click-through URLs, what corrections have been made, and so on. You can also use RTB Breakout. So this again is located in your UI, and you can identify the reasons why your bids were filtered out of auction, and it gives you all the reasons or issues according to that. You can also filter by creative ID, publisher, preferred deal, private auction to better understand your performance. And to resubmit your creatives, you can use the Creative REST API. And if you're not integrated with the REST API, you can resubmit it using a new bio creative ID. And as discussed, it is important to get your creatives reviewed and approved prior to turning your campaign live or running your new creatives. And again, you can submit your creatives to the Creative Upload API and retrieve the status of your snippets using this. Okay, so case study number 2, which is a frequent asked question. How do I check for SSL compliance? So we have a tool called the Creative SSL Validator in the UI, and you can basically copy your ad tag into the empty field there. You can click Scan Creative, and then it pops up with the results, and it will basically indicate whether the status is compliant, SSL compliant, partially compliant, or not compliant. And it also highlights all the non-compliant fourth-party calls, so you can troubleshoot further from there. And if any of the calls are determined to be non-secure, you can contact the appropriate advertiser or partner to obtain a secure version of the tag. And actually, you can also use RTB rates were filtered out of auction due to non-SSL compliance. And the attribute you'll see here is rich media capability non-SSL. And here's just a summary of the tools that I've mentioned. Okay, so we're going to go to Q&A now. So if anyone has any questions that was presented, then please do submit them now. So I'll give you a couple of minutes while I review the questions. So we had a good question from Yaron. One of the questions was, for mobile, do you allow advertisement of social gambling apps? That's basically apps that are in Google Play. So I'm going to turn to one of our policy experts just to answer that one.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So at this time, we don't distinguish between social gambling versus real money gambling. Any kind of gambling content is going to lead to a gambling disapproval, and that applies to AdX open auction.
Cool, I think that was it. So thank you very much for attending today's training. I hope you found it useful. Please stay tuned for if you want to receive the presentation from your account team, or if you missed anything, from the start, then you can watch the recording, which will be uploaded to the same channel. So thanks very much, everyone, and thank you so much, Andrea and Kim, for joining the training, and see you all on a future training. Bye, everyone.